You know, I've said this so many times in the past. We're living in historic times. You've got to keep a diary. I mean, I wish I did. I write in my diary from time to time. I used to be very faithful in it, and I haven't been in a long time. But these are historic times. Historic times. What is happening now with the Rittenhouse trial is phenomenal. The last few days have been devastating to the prosecution. He looks absolutely innocent. Most experts all agree, how could this have even gone to trial? And the answer is Twitter. But I would have motioned for dismissal of the case if I were the defense. I don't think they did that this morning. Did they, Stu? They should have stood up and said, Your Honor, did you hear the prosecution's witnesses? They said it was self-defense. I moved for dismissal, but apparently they didn't. And then they did something else that is highly unusual when you think you're going to win the case, and that is call the defendant to the stand. Because once the defense gets in there, they're going to try to get him to say, yeah, I just lost my reason, and I shouldn't have done that, or I didn't take time, or whatever. They're going to try to trap him in it.
Yeah, it's one thing to put a CEO of a financial company on the stand, right? This is a 18-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. You know, who knows what's going to happen when he gets on the stand?
And he just got on the stand, and the defense was examining him, and they just asked what happened. Listen to what happened on the stand when the simple question was asked.
What's your plan?
My plan is to get out of that situation and go back north down Sheridan Road to where the car source lot number 2 was.
And did you get back? Were you able to go in a northerly direction?
I wasn't.
Describe what happens.
Once I take that step back, I look over my shoulder, and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side, and I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were three people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
So this goes on for a while. He can't speak really anymore except a few words here and there. The judge says, let's take a 10-minute break. They're not back from that yet. But it did not look like a fakey cry. It looks like a cry that you have when you found out, like, your parent died.
Yeah, he's totally out of control.
Totally out of control in despair.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, it looks very authentic.
Yeah, it's not a fake cry.
Yeah, he looks like a kid who's just lost a parent.
Yeah.
And by the way, his mom was in the courtroom also sobbing uncontrollably. I mean, what they have put this family through is completely incomprehensible.
Think of the punishment he's going to have. Are we back in with him? Did they just bring him back to the?
Yeah, he's coming back.
It looks like it's coming back. Join it when we can. Sarah, just let me know. The thing that is amazing to me is this kid's life is wrecked forever.
With at least half the country.
With half the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's 18 years old.
I stepped forward to put that fire in the Duramax out, and Mr. Zeminski stepped towards me. I went to go run back south down Sheridan, and Mr. Rosenbaum was right there at the corner of the Duramax, starting to chase me.
This is the first shooting.
And that's when I realized the only place I can run with the people around me is straight towards the building of the car source lot number 3.
When you saw Mr. Rosenbaum, that's when you said friendly?
When I heard burn inside, I don't know exactly where I was at in the time for that.
Did Mr. Rosenbaum say anything to you?
No, Mr. Zeminski instructed Mr. Rosenbaum to get him and kill him. That's what I heard.
And you go running what's been referred to the southwest corner of Car Source?
Yes.
And as you're running in that direction, describe being chased. What was happening?
As I'm running in that southwest direction,
Oh boy.
Mr. Rosenbaum throws, at the time, I know it's a bag now, but when he threw it at me, with the light, it looked silver and it looked like the chain when he threw it at me. And then I continue, I turn around for about a second while continuing to run, and I point my gun at Mr. Rosenbaum.
Does that stop him from chasing you?
It does not.
Okay. After you turn around and you had your hands up kind of in a low ready position,
Yes.
and you see Mr. Rosenbaum coming at you,
Yes.
and what do you do then?
After he throws the bag and he continues to run, he's gaining speed on me. A gunshot is fired from behind me, directly behind me, and I take a few steps, and that's when I turn around. And as I'm turning around, Mr. Rosenbaum is, I would say, from me to where the judge is, coming at me with his arms out in front of him. I remember his hand on the barrel of my gun.
And why didn't you just keep running?
When I was over there, there were about 100 people surrounding those cars, and there was no space for me to continue to run to.
Okay. And so you turned around,
Yes,
and as you see him lunging at you, what do you do?
I shoot him.
And how many times did you shoot?
I believe 4.
And after you shot him, what did you do?
The people around the cars that were originally there were not there anymore. They moved away, and I ran around to see if I could help Mr. Rosenbaum.
And when you got to Mr. Rosenbaum, what was happening?
Mr. McGinnis he took off his helmet and slammed it on the ground and took off his shirt, and I don't remember what he said. I wasn't focused on that. I was in shock, sort of.
Let me back up a second. Did you know Mr. McGinnis was even around?
I didn't.
Okay. And he says something to you, and what do you do?
I pull out my phone and I call Dominic Black.
And you call Dominic, and what do you say?
I told him I just shot somebody. I had to shoot him.
And what do you do then?
I now know it to be Kelly Zeminski, Joshua Zeminski, and I don't know the other people who were screaming, "Get his ass, get his ass, get him, get him, get him."
And based upon that, did you feel as though you were safe to stay where you were at?
I thought the safest option would be to go north down Sheridan to turn myself into the law enforcement down there.
And as you head down Sheridan Road, describe what's going on.
Oh boy, here it goes again.
As I'm running, at first I'm in the
Deep breath.
sidewalk, and Mr. Lukowski, Jason Lukowski, is in the sidewalk, and I stop to talk to Mr. Lukowski for a brief second. I remember telling him that I just shot somebody and I need help to get to the police because the crowd, there was a mob was chasing me.
And did Mr. Lukowski offer you any help?
I don't remember.
Okay, what do you do then?
I continued to run after hearing people say, people were saying, cranium him, get him, kill him. People were screaming, and I just was trying to get to the police running down Sheridan Road.
And you say, I'm trying to get to the police. Why were you trying to get to the police?
So I didn't do anything wrong. I defended myself.
Did you feel as though there was safety where the police were?
Yes.
And as you head down Sheridan Road, what's the next thing you remember?
The next thing I remember is Anthony Huber striking me in the head with a skateboard.
Okay. As you sit here today, do you remember talking to Gage Grosskreutz?
Yeah, sorta, a little bit. I didn't know it was Gage Grosskreutz when he came up to me, but sorta.
Okay. And when this individual runs up to you,
all
gets
sounds
how close?
really
I would
powerfully
say
authentic.
Yeah.
within a foot.
He lived
Did you
it,
shoot
right?
him?
Yeah.
I did not.
Did you point your gun at him?
I did not.
Why not?
I didn't see him as a threat to my safety or life.
Okay. Was he armed at that time?
Not that I noticed.
Okay. And you continue running in a northerly direction down Sheridan Road?
Correct.
And as you're running in that direction, you said the next thing you remember is Anthony Huber.
Yes.
Describe that.
Anthony Huber, what I remember is running past Anthony Huber, and as I'm running past Mr. Huber, he's holding his skateboard like a baseball bat, and he swings it down, and I block it with my arm, trying to prevent it from hitting me, but it still hits me in the neck. And as I block it, it goes flying somewhere off in the distance.
And do you stop then?
No.
What do you do next?
I keep running down Sheridan Road towards the police line.
Then what happens?
I get lightheaded, I almost pass out, and I stumble and hit the ground.
Okay. Before you hit the ground, how many times were you struck?
I believe twice.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the other one?
I remember the first one being a rock. I don't remember who did it, but I remember like the bumpiness of like a concrete rock hitting me in the back of the head.
Okay. Now, after being struck with Mr. Huber's skateboard, you end up on the ground.
Yes.
You're on the ground. What's the first thing you remember?
As I'm on the ground, there are people around me. I don't recall how many, but I remember moving my rifle in their direction, and they back off besides one person.
Okay. When you noticed people by you, you said you moved your rifle in their direction.
Yes.
Did that individual keep coming?
The last person did.
Okay. The people that stopped, what did you do to them?
Nothing.
Okay. And you're saying the last person in that group continued to come at you?
Yes.
And describe what happened.
The last person, I don't know his name. I don't think he was ever identified. Jumps at me he was wearing boots, I believe, and as he's running at me and jumping, as his boot is making contact with my face, I fired 2 shots at him.
Why did you shoot at him?
I thought if I were to be knocked out, or he would have stomped my face in if I didn't fire.
As a result of being kicked in the face, what happened?
Holy cow.
Mr. Huber.
Okay, so that is the testimony of Kyle Rittenhouse, and it goes exactly to the footage.
You can see everything he just said was confirmed by video.
And it is going to be, there is a pivot point here again, and it is time for America to ask, which side am I on? You are either on the side of decency and a kid maybe making a mistake for just being there, but not a wanton killer, not somebody who should be charged with murder. You're either standing there with the truth and the video, or you're going to deny your own eyes and your own ears. But it's another pivot point. Choose wisely, America.